All right, guys, we have Eric Chesser on the Hunting Product Guru podcast, and this is something I'm really excited about on a personal level because he and I have started to get to know each other through Instagram, through a social media platform. And he said it many times, I've said it many times, that social media is a great gift, and it is so unique that you get to interact with somebody and meet somebody from another state, and it just brings you together, like-minded individuals. So, Eric, welcome to the podcast, bro.
Thanks, man. I'm so excited to be on your podcast. Pretty
Yeah.
excited about your barnwood backdrop too.
Yeah, for those, this is the first video podcast. So for those who can't see, this is my bow. Obviously, got my phone scope hat here, but this is a wall that I drove 400 nails in by hand to get this like it was. And my wife, on the 400th nail, she probably came outside, and I remember her saying something like, "Are you done yet?"
Yeah.
I was like, yeah. And trust me, I want to be done too. But I knew the reason I did the wall like this was because the podcast was coming up. It's something that I really wanted to. I wanted to set the scene, of rustic, and this is me, and so that's why I did it, was because I knew this podcast was coming up, and I wanted to get video involved. So Eric is obviously the first video podcast guest, and I'm so excited, man. Thanks so much for being here. Give everybody an intro of you if they don't already know you, which at this point it's kind of hard to believe, but let's just go ahead and roll with it, bro.
So my name is Eric Chesser. I am now 34 years old, which blows my mind. I definitely don't feel like that old, But for those people who don't know me, I mean, I'm just your day-to-day guy who just loves to hunt, loves to fish. I love fitness. I've always had a passion for working out, and I've always loved to share those things with others, to help inspire people, to help motivate people to get out there and try new things. And over just such a long period of time, I've been able to create a social media following, and now I'm partnered up with Brian and Casey, and we have a big YouTube channel called Hushin'. So that stands for hunting and fishing. We kind of like merge the two together. That was Casey's idea, which is pretty cool. And I just am just like your day-to-day guy who has a passion for filming and a passion for sharing that with others. So that's pretty much what I do on all my social media platforms. And I do it for a living now, man. It's crazy. Like that's even like hard to say. That's what I do for work. So for those that don't know me, I just hunt, fish, travel, and share my experiences through pictures and social media posts and YouTube videos.
Dude, that is awesome. And I'm so excited that you're the first video guest, because there is a guest right behind you that has been such an epic. And I went and watched that video again this morning early. And tell me a little bit about Firepole, for those who don't know. And for those who don't know, Hush is obviously, it's a brand, and these guys have, in my eyes, you set the tone so well for apparel, the way you do your videos, and I know you personally do all those, right? You do all the videos?
A majority of them, yeah. So Casey's out filming, Brian's out filming. I do Hush full time, so I do cut and edit most of the videos. Casey does the other portion.
Nice.
And, Brian's starting to learn how to edit. He's actually super excited to learn how to edit so he can make his own cuts, because there's like a little artistic angle of, making videos, and that's been fun to learn over the years. But the Firepole, yeah, man,
it's become an iconic logo for Hush.
Yeah, it really has. Let's see if I can find
your hat. Like, I've got that exact same hat.
Oh yeah, let me snag this real quick.
Actually, I need to do something too. So
this one's got a leather pattern that I'm wearing.
So I had to go do something too.
Yeah, you're fine.
I'll tell you what it was here in a second. And I'm not editing this. This is how we're gonna roll with it. I don't. That's one thing that I'm gonna stick to is.
Yeah, keep it raw, man.
This is real and raw, and that's honestly one reason I love all the Hush brand and the lifestyle is because you keep it real and raw. I love that.
Yeah, I have found through over the years of sharing hunts. I've done DVDs in the past. We've hunted, these big money tags. We've had these high profile clients in the past. And what I realized is more people would come up to me and tell me that they enjoyed, me hunting with my brother more than like the celebrity hunt, or me out on the Wasatch Front with a head camera more than, like a $20,000 elk hunt, which is cool because those guys kill giant bulls, but people were actually giving me more feedback on just the day-to-day stuff, the small little details, the public land hunts. And so it didn't take me long to realize like people just enjoy things that they can connect with more so than, like the TV stuff back in the day. We all grew up watching TV, and
Oh yeah.
I mean, it made it look almost so easy, and it wasn't relatable. And I think now with like the YouTube platform and social media is we're able just to share more real, raw content, and people connect with it more. I mean, they connect with the sounds. As silly as that is, less music, more natural sounds, the birds, the bugs
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So
And your reaction to those, like the raw emotion that you guys display in all your videos. I think I wrote you before, and I've definitely written on every picture that y'all do. You hold the backstrap up. That, for whatever reason, that's like I don't find that disrespectful at all whatsoever. As a matter of fact, that means to me that you're out doing it for the right reasons. And yes, you've got a nice bull sitting behind you in a wall full of antlers, but dude, you post way more about the meat and the cooking of it, and that is, dude, you and I have talked about that before. Like we connect on that level that, it's way more than just, antlers on the top of a head.
yeah, and I can be 100% honest. Before I ever chose to hunt and actually chose to try it for myself, pull the trigger and kill an animal, I wanted nothing to do with that because I loved those animals so much. I would go film them. I would go collect shed antlers. That's kind of my big thing. I was so fascinated with the antlers that I would go out and shed hunt and film that. And I would enjoy filming other people's hunts, but it took me a while to actually choose to try hunting for myself. And a big reason why, or the reason why, was the meat. I was getting into fitness more and more at the time in my early 20s, and I was like, why am I buying all this chicken and beef and, all these things when I can go out and hunt? I'm like, but do I really want to be the one to pull the trigger? I mean, I'm a softie about it,
Yeah.
Over the years, I can honestly say I 100% appreciate and enjoy the meat way more than the antlers.
That is
And
awesome, dude.
they're here. I love them. I absolutely love them. And they're great for story time. They're great to see them and have them. But when I sit down with a plate of meat that I cooked, taken from the field and prepared, and usually it's even better when you cook it for someone else, man, the satisfaction of like prepping the meat and just being like, I got this,
That's an
I
unreal feeling.
enjoy so much more than just having antlers. But as you can see, I am a huge antler fanatic. So that says a lot.
Yeah, and so Eric and I, we DM'd quite a bit, and once I asked him about the podcast, we exchanged phone numbers, and we've been talking quite a bit. And he's asked me a few times, like, do I have any questions for him? And I was like, no, I really don't. And this podcast is real and raw. So if you just having a conversation, a question came up. How long have you been hunting? Because it sounds like you haven't been hunting your entire life.
So yeah, I am 34 now, and I'd really have to look at the pictures, but I think when I was 20 years old was the first time I pulled the trigger and got a buck. Those years leading up to that, I actually went out and filmed people hunt and helped people hunt. I loved the experience and I loved the journey. I just didn't want to pull the trigger. And obviously I shed hunted through those years. So around 20 years old, that's when I was like, I'm gonna get myself a tag. I'm gonna go out there and harvest a mule deer, and I got my first buck. So it's been, I don't know, 14 years.
Dude, that's awesome. I grew up hunting, but as we've talked before, the Texas style hunting versus, the backcountry hunting, there's something, and I don't know if you feel this way about, you guys just came to Texas for the Total Archery Challenge in the San Antonio area, and I wasn't able to get there. I really wish I was, but you came down and you got to experience some Texas style hunting, and that is what I grew up doing. I grew up around the San Antonio area, actually hunting axis and whitetail and all these exotics and stuff. I personally, and I love hunting here. I won't give that up. But dude, I have such a big desire to get out in the backcountry and hunt. Do you have that yearning to like go back to Texas or to go try other styles, types of hunting like that, or are you just like I don't know. If it were me, I'd be like, dude, get me in elk country. Like I don't even want to mess around with whitetail. I love whitetail. I'm not trying to sound ungrateful, but
yeah, I know what you're saying. I mean, when we're down there, like when we talk to people down in Texas and stuff, they're just like craving that rut elk hunt or that high country mule deer hunt, the stuff that we have right in our backyard.
Yeah.
And now that I have gone out and traveled a few different places, I did a Missouri whitetail hunt, tree stand. We did, ground blinds over the feeders in Texas, axis deer, same experience there. I don't crave probably that as much as you would crave here because it is different. And now that I have traveled and gone to some different places, I can honestly say it is so nice just being able to drive 20 minutes from my house right here in the city of Salt Lake City, Utah, 20 minutes, and I can be on foot into the backcountry and into high country mule deer hunting in probably like an hour and a half.
Oh my gosh.
So as much as I do love those experiences, I'd still crave these even more. But one thing I would like to do is your typical Midwest whitetail, rattling antlers, deep rut, the sound of the leaves when they're coming in and you can hear them. That's what I crave. A lot of Western hunters, I would think, they some frown upon like tree stands or ground blinds, which by the way, I shot Firepole in a ground blind that I built out of pine trees. But I actually love tree stand hunting more than anything.
Wow, really?
Yeah, if you saw my last post on Instagram these last couple days, it was the first mule deer I shot out of a tree stand. So here's my angle on all that. So there's so many different methods. There's spot and stalk, calling, ambushing at water holes, setting tree stands, and they're all different, right? And it creates a different experience. So for me, I'm so used to the spot and stalk. Mule deer, glassing high points, they're out there a mile, heck maybe two, and you're gonna navigate through and get closer for, to get an opportunity or a kill shot. Calling is so fun elk when they're in the rut. I mean, you're on the ground, you're just running, gunning, and it's noisy and it's loud, and you can get away with stomping and running and kicking trees and raking antlers and all kinds of stuff. So that's a totally different experience. But for me, being in a tree stand, especially one that you have scouted, tried to figure out the animals' routes, why would they come here, and you set up a camera, which is hard work. People forget, especially here, if I'm going to take a tree stand up, I have to carry it up the mountain.
Absolutely.
If we're gonna use attractants like salt or buck jam or any of that, that's another thing of hard work and consistently, bringing the attractants up to the mountain. But sitting in a tree stand, when you're just sitting there and you're wondering, did I make the right decision today? Am I gonna see anything? Man, I knew if I got out and hiked to that hill, I could glass a couple bucks. But you're like, when you're in a tree stand, for me, and you're sitting there and you're scanning, and when something is different, right? You see the deer or the elk or whatever it is you're after, the buck fever I experienced in a tree stand is way beyond any spot and stalk hunt, way more than any calling sequence I've ever done. That instant, boom, he's within bow range already. The first time you see the deer, it's
go time.
Nothing gets me more excited. So tree stand hunting, I absolutely love it. I'll never give that up, and I'll always look forward to doing it. But a true rutting whitetail tree stand hunt is top of my bucket list.
Get your blood pumping.
Oh yeah, that November crisp morning, the sounds of the birds, just like you see on the hunting video games, sounds of the birds and a little bit of agriculture. I love the idea of a funnel or something. And
did you
I love that.
Did you grow up having a PlayStation or anything like that?
I was never big into the gaming stuff. Like when I was real little, Nintendo. I
Yeah,
always tell people when it was A, B, up, down, right,
dude.
left, select and start, I was good. Once it got more like crazy, I was done with that. And I think I was more into sports and being outside and stuff like that. So I never really played a lot of video games.
The only um, so I work at a company in Dallas, and I work with a lot of people who game, and they get a kick out of whenever I bring in wild venison that I've harvested, whether it be dove that's, stuffed with jalapenos and cream cheese wrapped in bacon, or a bacon wrapped stuffed tenderloin from an Axis or something like that. They love that stuff. And then, whenever they're talking games and stuff, I'm not making fun of them at all, but they get a kick out of me whenever I say the only games I had I had a PlayStation 1, I think, or 2 or something like that. And it was the only one I had, and I had hunting games. I had Capella's Big Game Hunter, like
Uh-huh.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever it was, dude. And that was, yeah. So whenever you're talking about those games, and it brought back such a memory for me. Like it was, if I wasn't hunting because it was nighttime, I was playing those video games as a
Uh-huh.
little kid, or I was outside, doing something outdoors.
Well, I mean, I've played the arcades and seen the games enough to where like you connect with the sounds. Like some of those games are spot on with the sounds and
The
just
birds and
ambient noises like the birds. And I remember like the first whitetail hunts I did, I would compare it to what I saw on TV and what you see in video games. I'm like, it's these birds and making these certain sounds. I'm like, it felt really cool doing it for the first time, like a Midwest whitetail hunt.
so you and your brother, you hunt, and I listened to you, Casey, and BMAX podcast with Gritty Bowman,
Mm-hmm.
on their Gritty Bowman podcast, and you were talking about how you've gotten so busy and this hunting stuff. And I remember you said something. You're like, "There's a week that I go hunt with Walker, and that is a must." What I would imagine for Walker, you've made a really big impression on him in the hunting world, and he does. I've watched some of you guys, like he does the fishing stuff with you.
Mm-hmm.
Has there been anybody influential that, I don't know, like you remember a time where they taught you so much and it meant the world to you? I would imagine that'd be a lot of people just knowing your genuine, heart and stuff like that. But is there that one person that you're just like almost makes you tear up to think about?
Yeah, a few people, and I'll just kind of go through a few and give you an example. My grandpa Tito, who has passed away, he had such a huge love for fishing. So I grew up going fishing with grandpa all the time.
That's
In
awesome.
fact, I still have his hunter orange hat. It's a funny foam hat, trucker hat, and it looks silly on me, and I put my ears in it, and it's huge, and I wear it every general season hunt because that's my grandpa's hat.
Oh, that's
And
awesome, man.
like, yeah, I get all emotional when I think about it, but I wear that hat for him. So family, of course. My dad took me hunting as a young kid. He took me in the outdoors. I actually grew up in California,
Okay.
around the Fremont and San Francisco Bay Area. And he was from Fillmore, Utah. So he would drag me out from California as a kid to here during hunting season. And man, I was just like, what is this?
It's way
I was
different.
so young, and he'd throw me on a horse. And there was one time the horse saddle fell off, but he truly introduced me to hunting. He's the one who took me outside and took me camping, even in California where it was probably much more limited. He still made time to like take me and my siblings camping and have BB guns and do those type of things. So definitely my dad, which man, I'm so excited. He drew his muzzleloader limited entry bull elk tag this year. Like 10 years of applying,
10
and he
years?
finally drew it. So yeah, this is going to be a huge year for him. And just a quick, I know it's so exciting, and a
That's
quick funny
awesome.
story. My dad, he's pushing 70 now, and we took him down to Texas. I'm sure you saw those videos where we hunted
Dude,
with our dads, and it was our chance to give back. So me, Casey, and BMAC all took our dads to Texas and did the whitetail hunt as a thank you for introducing us and being such role models into hunting. Man, that was crazy, but it also it made me realize like you only get so many opening days. That's what Brian and his dad say. You only get so many opening days, right?
Wow.
And if you think about it, you're like, you've got to make time for those type of things. And as busy as I am, like this year, that hunt is going to be the focus of my season. Between scouting and gathering my closest friends and family, like everyone's invited. This is my dad's hunt. We're going to go on this and make it an epic trip and just a
Oh
great time
man.
for everybody. But the funny thing about it is here in Utah, when you apply for like a limited entry tag, you pay $10 per application, whether you draw or not, right?
Okay.
So it's probably 7 years into this that my dad tells me during application season, which is around February, he says, son, stop putting me in for that big bull tag. God, it's $10 a year. And
What?
plus, I can just buy a spike tag every year and shoot a spike and get it's better meat. So I'm like, Dad, you really? I'm Dad. Come on, like you really don't want to hunt for a big mature bull elk? And he, no, I can get a cow tag or a spike tag. The meat's so much better. I'm sick of paying $10. You know, I mean there's something to be said about that, especially nowadays where a lot of hunters are focused on inches, the size. You know, I've seen hunters bash people for shooting a young buck or a young bull. You should have let it grow up. And I'm like, man, some of you guys are forgetting
The point.
that the point for hunting forever has been to go out and harvest meat. And my dad is a perfect example of someone like that. He does not care whatsoever about the antlers. In fact, I've only got a couple of his racks from all the years he hunted because he never kept them. He just threw them away. But
Wow.
so I told my dad, I will pay for your application fee. I will pay the $300 or whatever when you draw the big bull tag. So we got it. And I remember I was in Florida when I got the email. So I called him and my brother Walker and put them all on a three-way. And I was like, Dad drew the muzzleloader elk tag this year, you know. So everyone's so excited, and I think now that he's actually drawn it and has something to look forward to,
Super
he's
pumped.
way more excited than he would have thought. So yeah, my dad is a perfect example of someone like that who just wants to hunt for meat. So my dad for sure. And then as far as like who was in the hunting industry that really inspired me was a guy named Mike Brownlee.
Mike Brownlee. Okay.
Mike Brownlee. So when I was young and first getting into filming and doing all this, he made it started with VHS,
Oh
a
yeah.
series called the Mega Buck series, and he would go out to Wyoming and film these legendary bucks on the winter range like Popeye and Goliath and Mr. BC. I mean, I watched those VHSs so many times, and I learned so much just through watching them about deer habits, migration routes, shed hunting. He was big into shed hunting. So Mike Brownlee was a huge inspiration for me. And I remember I was working at Sportsman's Warehouse, and my boss in the shoe department was like, "Hey, my buddy Mike Brownlee's here. You want to meet him?" And I was like, "Oh my God,
What?
I get to meet Mike Brownlee." So I've told him a dozen times since. I'm like, "Dude, you have no clue, how much you've inspired me, and through your videos, I must have watched them 100 times over." So those are probably my top three right there.
That's awesome, man. I was on a podcast. I was doing a podcast last night, and it'll be so I'm trying to get these out weekly and spread them out and stuff. And one thing I want to encourage and just say, like, if you have a question for me, just ask me too, because I don't want this to be like a one-way conversation. But if I had to pick somebody in the hunting industry that made a huge impact on me, other than my dad, he took me fishing or hunting and fishing whenever I was he told me that he started taking me hunting at 6 months old. He took my little baby carrier and a diaper bag, and he was going hunting. He didn't shoot anything, but he took me, and that meant the world to him. And I'm pretty sure I loved it. I don't know.
Yeah,
but,
6 months old. What the heck?
Yeah, but I remember you were talking about Mike Brownlee, and I remember there's somebody that I started watching on VHS, and his name was Phillips, the cowboy in Africa. He's a bow hunter. Like, that's all he does is bow hunt. And I watched his that VHS over and over and over again. As a matter of fact, I convinced my mom. I'm sorry, Dad, but I convinced my mom to let me skip school, and I stayed at home and I watched that DVD on repeat Like I remember that one time and just watching on repeat, man. It's amazing like how those, the technology is changing this industry like crazy. I mean, I remember whenever I started hunting Product Guru in 2013, I wanted to do videos, but I didn't want to do the TV industry stuff anymore. And it's amazing to me, like some of those VHS videos that I remember still have an impact on me today. Like if I ever get over to Africa, I'm going to remember some of those moments that, Phil Phillips was over in Africa, and I'm just going to remember it. Just like you're talking about Mike Brownlee, he taught you some of those hunting tactics. That's just so unique to me.
Yes, things like that will just stick with you forever, I mean, I've actually had the chance to kind of hunt a little bit with Mike.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
That's cool. As a grown adult, I'm like, this is cool. Back then it would have been, Eric, if you can sit down and have dinner with anybody, it would have never been a Hollywood celebrity. It wasn't going to be an NFL player. Like I would have just said, I want to hang out with Mike and like look at his antlers.
That's awesome, man. Listen to him tell those stories in person.
Yeah, exactly.
That'd be such a unique experience. Another thing I wanted to, we talked about your love for Honda four-wheelers, and obviously that was one thing that we had a lot in common. Was I had just sold my 1992 Honda 4Trax 250, and it was one that my dad bought brand new. And tell me some of the stories that your four-wheelers have been for you, and then some of the memories. Like I know it's just a four-wheeler, but I had such a hard time selling my four-wheeler.
Yeah. And see, you're probably, your four-wheelers are probably what my three-wheeler was to me, because the four-wheelers are fairly new. I've got some great experiences on them already, even though they're all 1990s.
Is this the three-wheeler that you took?
If you watch the Firepole hunt, you'll see the three-wheeler. And again, this goes back to my dad, like contributing and supporting my outdoor, my interest in the outdoor. So in California, we lived in a circle, like a court, they call it a court.
Yeah.
And the neighbor down the street apparently sold his three-wheeler to my dad to give me for Christmas. So one morning I woke up, and the funny thing is I had pink eye.
Oh.
So ever had pink eye? Your eyes are literally like glued shut with like all the nasty infection or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I wake up Christmas morning, and I got pictures of him somewhere at my mom's house, and I'm on my three-wheeler, and I just got pink eye, and I look half dead. But my dad bought me a three-wheeler, and in California, we had a fairly large front yard, and I've had like just a figure eight, to go around and buzz around on this three-wheeler. It's a little Honda 110. I had that thing forever, and so when I killed the Firepole was fall of 2013. So I don't even know how many years that is in between. We got it running again, and that thing fires right up. So I took it on the Firepole hunt, and It's so funny how many people come up to me and they connect with that. They loved that. Like, regardless of how cool the Firepole is and how big it is, people come up and talk to me about the little things. Like, dude, I had that same thriller when I was a kid. That's so cool. You were riding that on the Firepole video. And here I am with like a big duffel bag on front, full of salt, backpack full of 50 pounds of, mineral blocks and all these things. And I've got no suspension, just bawling on that three-wheeler, and just, wrecking my back. I remember being so sore after setting all those cameras. But the three-wheeler, we still have it. Again, it's probably something, like you said, it'd be so hard to sell because all the memories I have on it, not only hunting, but pulling my buddies around in the snow in the neighborhoods and stuff like that. And, I mean, it's all busted up. The fenders are broke from rolling it over. And there's just like something about having, being young and having a dirt bike or a four-wheeler or something to like learn, just learn. And, you learn from crashing. And I probably got hurt a couple times, but you flip over, you learn, like, I better not turn that sharp next time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So as a kid, I had all the freedoms to do all that, and I wrecked it, and I cracked it, and my dad would get mad and have to fix the fenders. But the memories on that three-wheeler will never be forgotten. My dad still takes it up to elk camp, and now I've got the Honda. I've got like a tribe of Honda 4Traxes. I got 3 four-wheelers that I'm like, why do I keep buying these four-wheelers? But I have some obsession with like old
Yeah, you like the
Original,
vintage, man.
old original stock, either trucks, cars, or four wheelers. I love them. Something that's like this hidden gem that was in like some guy's barn for years that's never been ridden or has low miles. That's what I want, you know?
That's awesome,
So
man.
I've got a bunch of 1990 four wheelers, and I'm pretty sure I have just as much fun as anybody with a 2017 Razor. You know what I mean?
And that was one thing. My buddy Jason, that he and I talked about. I was like, because he was the first one on the podcast, and it was important for me because this comes back to the whole um, not letting negativity bring you down. I didn't want to do the podcast, and I'm pretty sure you listeners, this is a third podcast, and you're tired of hearing the truth about that. But I didn't want to do the podcast because of negativity, and I was telling him about some of the people that are lining up on the podcast, and I was like, man, I can't believe it. Eric Chesser said yes, and he was like, Eric Chesser is such a simple guy. He's got the we just obviously we relate, right? Like you don't have to have the newest of news. I eventually want to. I'm fortunate enough that my four wheeler is with family. And I sold it because we're trying to climb our way out of debt, and that's important to me. That way I can, start to live a debt-free life for my family and stuff like that. And so I'm fortunate that my in-laws, have my four-wheeler, and I can go over there and ride it anytime. As a matter of fact, they call me if they're like, they have a question about it, or, my brother-in-law called me the other day. He's like, man, it's stuck in second gear. I was like, oh, you have to rock it. You have to rock it back and forth to get it back in neutral. But, I just think that's so cool. And I relate with you on we relate with you on that kind of level. But anyway, so I just wanted to say that. But that's kind of cool,
Yeah, man. I never questioned doing the podcast. I love these things. I think it's great for all audiences to collaborate. And that's pretty much that's how you build social media and things like this is you collaborate and you kind of introduce, my following to your podcast. You introduce your podcast listeners to me, and it's just good for everybody. There's no negative,
Yeah.
So
the negative portion of it was that people in the industry were saying that, well, there's podcasts everywhere. There's podcasts everywhere, and I'm just like, yeah, and it did mentally, it jacked with me at
for
first.
sure.
Like it psyched me out. And whenever I told Jason, I was like, yeah, I wanted to do a podcast. Actually, I've been wanting to do it since we started in 2013.
Yeah.
Or soon after that. And I told him, the individual that kind of told me that statement, and he was like, dude, you got to shine your light, bro. Like you got something that people want to hear, and the people that you're going to have on need to tell their story, and your audience can hear that. And man, that just meant so much to me that somebody so, we just met each other and he said that. So that's cool, man. And obviously the whole positive vibes that you and I have all the time back and forth. And I don't know,
there's always someone who's going to doubt you or, tell you that can't happen or it's already been done. And I look back at what I've been through all these years, and if I would have listened to people, I would be nowhere,
Yeah.
But like you said, they can create speed bumps and create doubt in your mind, and like maybe I shouldn't. For example, years ago, I've done competitive bodybuilding fitness shows, and I've had this just love for the gym. I love the gym. To me, it kind of went hand in hand with my style of hunting.
Yep.
And I started to trickle out some of the fitness stuff through, my social media. You'd get hate like, oh, you think you need to be ripped to kill big bucks. And people are just like totally switching this thing. And I've had plenty of people saying, you shouldn't, this is coming from other people, other hunters that are in the industry or just kind of we're friends or whatever. Hey, I don't think you should post fitness related things on your hunting page. I'm like, well, first of all, it's Eric Chester.
Yeah.
I think social media is a platform where we can share whatever we're passionate about, but it did get to me enough to pull back, not post anything hunting, fitness related. And I slowly was like, screw that, like I love fitness. And now I'm like, I get messages where people are inspired or motivated by my fitness related posts or this or creating like, hey guys, let's do it, a 6-week challenge. Let's get going. Let's step it up. Hunts are coming up. And now I'm working with mountain ops, some of my great friends who, uh, you know, make supplemental products. And I'm like, it's all coming together. And I look back at exactly what you said. What if I would have listened to everybody? I wouldn't have these opportunities, and I wouldn't have these thank you messages of like, hey, because I got one from a girl not long ago. She lost 50 pounds and she was heavily overweight. And she sent me a message. She didn't even look like a hunter,
Yeah.
It was just your day to day average looking girl, but she wrote the nicest message, sent it in a DM. She's like, I've lost 50 pounds. And just like through your posts, I find motivation and inspiration to like keep going. And I'm like, what if I didn't share these, and I would be missing out on all this great things. So yeah, don't listen to those guys that are,
You don't
oh,
want to.
everyone's got a podcast now. You're way behind. Whatever. But it really comes down to your why, and that's a
Yeah.
question I want to ask you: is why did you do a podcast?
Why did I do a podcast?
Yeah, let's hear your why.
So my why is I believe that hunting product guru, when you hear that, you are immediately drawn to product and then guru and then hunting. And people automatically think, a lot of people thought that I was like I distributed hunting products. I got all sorts of messages saying, hey, I'd love to try your products and I'll share about it on my Instagram. Please help me out. And I'm like, you'll get the point of in a minute, And I was like, sorry, I don't do that. This is all about, honest reviews about hunting products that I've used. And the why is I started to realize that there was stories behind every one of these brands and all of these people that I started meeting on social media that, a lot of the podcasts that I listen to, a lot of them now are motivational podcasts, because not that I feel like I just need motivation, but what's wrong with motivation, right? And that's why I listen to those podcasts, is because it gets me fired up and it really drives me to just see that I have potential and I have something to offer the world, and I'm not just another number on a tablet. I'm literally Justin Wagner, and I have something to offer people. And I think the why is just pulling those stories together and getting to just be honest and transparent with people. I feel like one reason that I'm drawn to you, the videos you produce, Casey and BMAC, is just the transparency that all three of you guys portray in your videos. And I feel like if I met you guys in person, you'd be no different than how I've seen you on social media. So the why is getting to show the transparency and like people, I don't know, they haven't told me whether they listen to this on their drive into work or they haven't told me any of that, but I do get messages where, and this was after only the first podcast, and I think it's so weird. I reached out to you and you asked me how many podcasts have I done, and I was like, I've only done one, and I was thinking that you didn't want to do it because I've only done one, and your immediate response was everybody starts somewhere, and all of I received messages after messages, and they've left podcast reviews where they said, there's finally some honest podcasting individuals I can tell, and I can't wait for more. The why is just bringing more honesty and transparency. Like, I work full time. I want to be, doing marketing videos and stuff like that in the hunting industry full time. I have a passion to hunt. I have a passion to show my family, you can set your mind to something and do it. And yeah, that's my why, is like trying not to let all those, speed bumps, I'm not going to say stop me, but, I don't want them to slow me down too much longer because it's...
Yeah, it's just noise, man. All the
Yeah.
negativity, it's just noise. And I mean, when your why is as strong as like what you have, and your why is to spread that message, you don't fail, right?
Right.
If your why was to make money on this podcast right now, and then you made $0, you're going to be like, I failed. But when your why is something as strong as what you said, and it's something that Casey and BMAC and I believe in so strongly, if your why is something like yours, you don't fail. It's simple as that. You can't fail because you're going to reach that goal. So if my why, which through all my stuff, my why is to change lives positively daily through outdoor hunting and fishing content. Like if I can put it in a sentence,
Dude,
that's my why.
that's an epic sentence.
So how can I fail if I'm truly putting out those things and I'm not worried about the money, all this other garbage that's going on, all the noise? You don't fail. And um, the why is so important. That's why I wanted to ask you what your why was, because a lot of people come to me with ideas. Eric, I want to do a YouTube channel. Okay.
Why?
Why? And oh, I heard you can make money on YouTube. Man, if that's the goal, you're setting yourself up to fail,
Fail
right?
me
Like
every time.
the why is so important. And dude, we all have that potential that you talked about. We all have that potential to be great and not to be a statistic or a number or just another guy on social media. We all have that potential and we have so much to offer the world. But if you're negative or if you absorb the negativity,
Mm-hmm.
you're never going to reach your full potential. And I feel so bad for people who see the glass half empty versus half full. And yeah, honestly, when I see negativity on social media, I just feel bad for the person because I'm like, if you only knew your potential, if you only knew if you put your time and energy into something positive to make change, like you could do something great.
Yeah, you
So
gotta.
the why, man, it's something I stand behind. It's something that we believe in very strongly. And no matter what happens moving forward, as long as your why is strong and you always kind of like come back to that when you have these doubts and these, obstacles that we're all going to face, if you have the why and you come back to that, it's just like, oh yeah, these things
Simple.
aren't a big deal. You know what I mean?
One thing that I've found personally, and I've been able to. You get a lot of messages, and I'm sure you get tons of them. Um, these messages you start to see like a reoccurring theme, and it's that these people on social media, they don't realize the people that they're messaging. We have rough days too, and I've done my very best to actually do Instagram stories even whenever I'm having the roughest of rough days, and I try to bring a positive light, but I want to be honest with people and say, like, I don't get to do this full time. I want
Yeah.
to. I I don't get to do this full time, and I don't look down on people who've been able to bust their freaking tails and do this full time. My thing is, I have stuff in my daily life that mess with me mentally too. Just like these people who message me, it's like I am no different than you, and the people that you message, they're no different than you. So don't, I don't believe, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. You stop me if you want, but I don't believe you're one of those people that think you're on a different, higher pedestal than anybody. And that's something that, quite honestly, I'm drawn to you about. Is just like you're an everyday dude, and you're just like, I don't know. I just wanted to make that point because I felt like this is a great segment or transition to be able to say that, and so those listeners can hear from your mouth if you feel the same,
Oh yeah.
and why you feel the same.
Well, first of all, thank you. That means a lot. And yeah, I am no different, man. I have the bad days. We all have the good days. We have the trials, the relationships, and the breakups, and the loss of a friend. And I do put some of that stuff out there. Like, but I sometimes if it is when I think about putting out something negative, right? I always go back to the butterfly effect, and I believe in this big time.
Yep.
Whatever you put out into the world or the social media, whatever you want to call it, whatever you put out there, it will multiply by beyond your belief, beyond you what you will ever know.
Mm-hmm.
So if you put out something negative, whether it's a hateful or negative comment, it is going to create more negativity. Positive is the same. If you put out something positive, inspiring, like guess what? It's going to spread that way. So it's not like social media. Some people are like, oh, some people are fake. They're trying to like make their lives seem so perfect. And maybe there is that. But maybe it's just why put out something negative if it's not going to affect anybody in a positive way. But yeah, I go through the same struggles, day to day struggles, issues, relationships, family, death, and dude, just doubt sometimes. I've had so many breakdowns. I couldn't even count them all. Like where people would get to me and I would be like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
How am I going to support a family financially making videos? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It gets in your head and it just eats you up and you start to question yourself and maybe I should go get a job, just do the 9 to 5. And I've been through that rodeo so many times, man, I can't even tell you, but I just tried to like focus on moving forward. And people would be like, hey man, people knew when I'm going through these trials and errors, and they're like, dude, you never skipped a beat, you just kept pushing forward, you just kept going, nothing, it didn't seem like anything slowed you down. And so that's why I put that out there versus like the negative stuff. But for example, if I'm feeling down on a hunt, I don't mind sharing that. If you're feeling like, man, I missed, like I'm really bummed, people love to see that because they
It's
have
raw.
been there.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've been there. So through our videos, yeah, we show all that stuff. But when it comes to personal things and events, I may not share that as much just because I don't know if sometimes I've reached out to people for advice and help, and that helps, so but yeah, I'm just a normal guy, man. I just like to make hunting videos.
A lot of, I listen to a lot of those motivational podcasts, and, being able to identify reoccurring themes and this can apply to so many things in life is, I didn't know that the Hunting Product Guru podcast would turn into like a it brings motivation, but I think it brings motivation through transparency to let people see, you know, individuals like ourselves who try like I'm pretty sure you've done your video stuff on the side to get where you are, just like I'm doing this on the side to get where I want to go. But being able to bring that transparency to them and let them know, like, the only reason you think somebody else is successful is because they didn't stop. Like, you may think they're successful, and those people that you're saying are successful, they may say, well, I'm not where I want to be yet. I still got a long way to go. So it's all the perception of that is just amazing to me.
Yeah, it's easy for an outsider to see somebody having success, whether their life, their business, whatever. And so many people are quick to judge, man. Like I had a guy who was just straight up honest with me. He's like, I thought you were a trust fund baby. I just figured you were. Like, how can you be out hunting so much? You must have been hunting
What?
on grandpa's dime. I'm like, man, you have no clue. I've had so many random jobs. I've tried it. I've been on a telemarketer job. I've done landscaping, sprinklers, retail for years. Dude, you name it. I've done all these different jobs, but like you said, it was just enough to get by, like, to the next hunting season, and where I could maybe do guiding or filming and get paid a daily rate. And then when that would end, it's like, man, I got to go work at Discover Credit Card and be on the phones again. So I just did whatever it took throughout the years.
Let's make it
Uh,
happen.
but anybody who's successful, I mean, there are people who are born into wealth, and those people like that are very lucky. That's awesome. I'm not trying to take away anything from them, but people who are successful, you can find a common theme, and it's just that they never gave up. As cliche as it sounds, they never stopped. They worked hard. They worked extra hours, whatever you want to call it, and it was over a long period of time. So if someone came into my social media right now and had no clue who I was, they could, oh, this guy's spoiled. He's got the fancy gear, he's got these sponsors and he's doing this full time. Like, he got so lucky. He got so lucky.
Oh man.
I just be like, let me just sit down with you and go over with my life story with you for a while,
Let's have a campfire chat there.
Yeah, I always tell people I'm 34 years old, and I can honestly say that I have never had a healthy annual wage through my entire adulthood. I'm talking like I'm way below average household income over pretty much my whole life. And somehow I've just, through working at like a credit card company for a while and through another one that was called Transforming Debt into Wealth, that taught people how to get out of debt. I just learned very quickly at a young age that I didn't want debt. I saw these people calling in, I've got 2 car payments, a house payment, credit cards. And I'm just like, I'm not doing this. So going back to kind of like you said, you're striving to live for this debt-free life, and that is my number one advice. People come up to me, you got it made, man. I'm like, listen,
Yeah, you
I
paid your
have a
dues.
92 four-wheeler, a 99 Chevy truck paid off. I live in this tiny house that I rent. If you truly want this lifestyle, you can have it, but you got to come down. I
Sacrifice.
tell it, I'm like, come to my level, you
Yeah.
know? I don't have your 50. I mean, these kids are coming up and they're young and they got $50,000 lifted diesel trucks and all this. And I'm like, I just want to tell those guys, man, at a young age, don't go into debt.
Yeah.
Don't get yourself into materialistic things because it really will run your life. You will be owned by the debt. You will be owned by the banks, and you won't be able to get as many days off as you want to hunt. So if someone truly wants like that lifestyle, live debt free, spend more time doing the things that you love, and I don't know. That's a debt. The whole debt thing is such a funny topic, you know. I
It's
love that topic because I've lived it and I've seen how it has wrecked people's lives financially, and I've seen how just being debt free can let someone live such a simple life, you know?
that's awesome, man. Dude, that is I love how this podcast. I mean, this is why like I didn't do an outline because
Yeah, we have no script here.
there's no script. Like this is real and raw, and this is exactly what um I mean, this is just a description of transparency right here. It's so awesome, dude. We're coming up on an hour, and I have something burning in my head, and it comes back to Firepole. I wanted to ask you if you had to describe that bull, that experience, everything in one word, just in one word. What would it be other than Firepole? Like other, just one word.
I mean, it came right to me, and it's unbelievable.
That is, dude, that's crazy. I watched that video again, and it was unbelievable that he came back the same path. Like I've watched this video more than once, but today I rewatched it just because I wanted to make sure that I could, and I asked you, I was like, can we do a FaceTime so we can have Fireball in the background?
Yeah,
Um,
there he is.
this bull is famous. Like the experience, the unbelievable experience that you had was he like ran right.
You're giving all the details, man.
Yeah, they're gonna have to go watch it. You're just gonna have to go watch
Yeah,
it.
for anybody who hasn't watched it, go to YouTube and just type in the Firebowl elk hunt.
Yep.
And I tell people all the time, it's 25 minutes long. Wait till you have a gap. Do not fast forward this hunt, or else you're going to ruin the true story.
Oh, if
But
since I want to talk about the lag between those instances and those who listening. I'm trying not to mess up too much of what you haven't seen yet, but how did you keep your mental state from wigging out between those instances? Like, there's got to be a life lesson in there somewhere.
Oh, absolutely. So this hunt is not a physical hunt for me. So I'm sitting in a blind that is really honestly not very far off a four-wheeler trail. It's no aggressive hiking. So it is sitting in a blind for hours and hours and hours for days, weeks. So that I will tell people, this is not your backcountry hunt. I wasn't in shape. It wasn't about being in shape, anything like that. It was all right here in my head, mental. So I knew the bull was in the area, and I knew it was just a numbers game. And I feel like this for a lot of hunting scenarios. If I'm just out there, the longer I'm out there, the more opportunity I have of him coming in, which is the better chance of me getting a shot opportunity. I mean, it's just a numbers game. More time spent, more opportunity.
Yeah.
Now, this comes back to fitness, and for me, it's related so much to fitness and doing those fitness shows. So for anybody who doesn't know about the fitness shows, is you're doing the gym and you're doing this diet that is like so strict for 12 weeks. And I always say, like, the diet is mental, right?
Oh yeah.
You know what you should be putting in your mouth. And for me, going through these fitness shows and whatever, I just got this mental toughness that, like, dude, here I am on a diet, someone throwing a pizza in front of my face, hot dog, zero temptation. So I had this mental toughness in me through the fitness world that honestly was the number one tool I used in the Firepole hunt. As crazy as that sounds,
And
I
what's
wasn't.
funny is it's fitness, not even like the fitness that
Oh,
people would think about, not like lifting weights and getting jacked and
exactly.
trimming down. It's all about the mental state that you had to take for that. That's amazing.
Exactly. So that is what I used in my hunting scenario to just keep me there and keep me sane, knowing that if I sat there, he's going to come in. Now, the gap you talk about, right? Like
Yeah.
that same gap. And that was truly about staying positive and sticking to my guns, because a lot of people were telling me it was a waste of time, don't go back. And I just kept thinking, these old animals like this are so habitual, and he lives here. He's gonna come back. He has to come back.
Yeah.
So I believed in my heart 100% I was gonna kill that bull.
You believed it.
I truly believed it. I had it
You
played out in
envisioned
my
it.
head.
You envisioned it.
I totally envisioned it. I mean,
That's
when he came
awesome.
out the first time and rolled through the meadow and was right there, I had already seen that. I mean, this is the first time I had seen the bull with my eyeballs,
Yeah.
but I had already seen that because I envisioned it happening just like it did. So the gap, the big part about the gap is I had to come home from the hunt
Yeah.
and move. So I had 5 days, and I remember I still have this screenshotted somewhere. Um, my little brother Walker, he knew that I had hit the bull. Service was bad on the mountain, so I was telling a few friends, "Hey, I hit the fire bull last night." So here I am back in Salt Lake, and he texts me, "So what happened?" And I forgot I didn't follow up with my brother. And I said, "Hey man, I'm home. I've got some things to take care of, but I'm just going to clear my mind, go back, and finish him."
That's awesome. God, it
That
just gave me goosebumps.
that text says it all, because that's truly what I believed. Like, I knew it was going to happen, and like it happened, and it really went to that mental toughness and having that stability to sit there for hours and just believe in your plan and stick to the plan when other people are telling you to go over there and hunt that bull and these ones are bugling over here. I just said, no,
No.
I'm going.
You're
I've
going
got a
all
mission.
yeah, you're going all in, dude. That I love that, man. And that's yeah, we're wrapping up here at an hour, and I want to, on a personal level, from the depths of my heart, I cannot thank you enough for coming on doing the podcast and clearing your schedule. I know as soon as we get off the air here, you are going to go in and probably make some lunch, and then you're going to probably get right to editing. So, man,
Yeah, it's so funny. You called it, nailed it on the dot. I've got
yep,
to eat. I've got to edit for a video, and man, I forget sometimes how much, like, putting so much of your life out there on social media, people absorb. For example, people will come up and like, "Man, I feel like I know you." I'm like, "Oh, you don't know me." And they're like, "No, I know what you drive, what
yeah,
kind of truck you like, your four wheelers, what your favorite ice cream is, how you cook your meals." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, you do actually know a lot about me."
it's
So
cool
that's
that
funny.
it's
You're
cool
right
that
on the
people pay
dot.
attention, man.
No, it was just a matter of finding a time that worked for both of us. I'm super excited to be a guest on the podcast. I don't care. And like you said, I don't care how many views you get, if you're big or small. I think if we're all in the same community, we all have minded goals, then it's just a positive for everybody. So I'm stoked to be on the podcast, man.
That's awesome, bro. Well, for those who are watching right here on this video or listening, make sure you go check out Eric and the Get Hushin' Boys. If B-Mac or Casey listen to this, what would you want to tell them, like a little secret or a little
Man,
nugget? If they watch or listen to this, I don't know if they do or
if
not,
those
but
guys watch your list, I just want them to know how much I appreciate them as individuals. The three of us together are so much more, we're stronger together, and our message is stronger together than it is as individuals. We all have our own individuality and the things we like and
yeah,
the things we do outside of hunting, but together these two have helped me so much in all aspects of life. I mean, BMAC him and his wife put me in his house while I was going through a breakup and I had nowhere to live. I mean, it's so much deeper than the hunting stuff, but these two have really opened up my eyes for what can truly happen when you are surrounded by people who have your same why, right? The
yeah,
why, and who believe the same things that you believe. And when you come together and you create content as us three, it's so much more fun than just doing something alone. So for those guys, I just want them to know how much I appreciate them as their own individuals and as us together.
That's awesome, man.
Love you guys, man. I love those guys.
Dude, I once again, man, don't get off. I want to go ahead and dismiss the podcast. So, thanks so much for joining the Hunting Product Guru podcast, Eric. And I don't know what the title is going to be yet, and that's one thing I don't title it until we, get to have the conversation, because I don't. This is not a script. I'm not coming at this with any angle or anything like that, other than just I want to have a conversation. Thank you so much for asking me my why, because that's really good that I get to spill those beans, and that kind of brought out your why. So, man, it's been a great conversation. I genuinely thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Absolutely, man. I love it. Thank you.